550. It's McGraw in the morning on the Big 550 KTRS.
It's nice to see that the kids in a failing school district, state law says that if you're in a failing school district, you can go to another school district. There's only one small problem. If the school districts don't want you, where are you supposed to go? Let's go to Mike on line 5. Mike, thanks for holding on. Welcome to KTRS and STLtoday.com.
Yeah, hey, McGraw. The whole thing has always been a scam. That the only purpose behind school choice is people who have money and send their kids to private schools don't want to pay the property taxes. So they came up with this idea of school choice, the whole idea being to ultimately abolish free public education. They just see that as being another entitlement of the rich sponging off the poor. So ultimately what will happen is education will be reserved for those who can pay for it.
Well, there's no greater show than this experiment that show that school choice is an utter failure.
Right.
Right. I mean,
and yet they're still going to push for it so that they can get, like if I send my kid to a private school, I want my property taxes to go to that private school instead of to my local elementary school. So ultimately, though, they wouldn't need it. They would eliminate the property taxes entirely, which is the entire point. People who have money hate paying taxes. And since they have the ear of the people who make those decisions, that's how we end up here.
Well, people who don't make a lot of money hate paying taxes, too.
True. But
yeah.
They're in it that they're evil.
Yeah.
It's part of living in our country.
Right, but then you really can't complain, Mike, when these companies say you're not educating people for our workforce.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. We need better skilled workers. Where are all these skilled workers? Well, this is where they are. They're not being allowed to go to school in an accredited school district. Tim, line 1, you're on KTRS Radio.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, Tim. You are on the air.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, my kids. I'm a parent of Parkway, students, and we took St. Louis School District kids, the city there. About 3 or 4 years ago, my timeline might be a little bit off, but my daughters ran into a problem with a couple of the city kids, so I had to talk with the principal and what's going on and this and that. It turns out, after talking to somebody on the board for Parkway, that out of 27 expulsions that year, not one was a student of the Parkway School District. Mm-hmm. So you have to take in effect. I mean, everybody has to look at, you are throwing people that just, I don't know how to explain it, but
I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying, Tim, I know exactly what you're saying, Tim, and this is the dirty little secret that no one wants to talk about, and that's
why I'm bringing it out, because I sit here on the radio, and freedom of information. You can go to Parkway and ask to see the records of how many people were expelled, how many were bussed in, and stuff like that. Now, here's the one fact that this principal told me. I'm not naming names, but he said, here's the sad fact. He said, here's the good fact and the sad fact. He said, by the time your daughter reaches to be a senior, most of these kids won't be here because they will have dropped out. Now, that's a terrible fact.
Yes, Tim. Here's the stat I want to know. I want to know. Now, I don't know this situation you're talking about, whether it was forced to go to these schools or there was a choice or what. I don't know. I never knew that somebody had a choice to go to a Parkway School District from the city of St. Louis. But
yes,
I want to know. How many of these 2,000 kids that are leaving, whether the 1,000 from Normandy or the 1,000 from Riverview, how many of them were actually failing in the current school?
Correct.
Right? How many of them were succeeding, trapped in a bad school because of the other kids around them, wanting to get out for a better chance, or how many of them were actually failing? So are we just importing or exporting bad kids to good districts, or are we exporting good kids in bad districts to good districts?
Now, I did hear on the news, though, that they said that if a kid had a record of a disciplinary problem and stuff like that, that they wouldn't be eligible to go. So that's a good thing. But I want people to realize that this is the hard fact that you can check it. Not one expulsion was from a student of Parkway. They were all outside. The other thing was that the guy, the person on the board told me, when it came to the hearing at the expulsion, it wasn't a family unit. It was either the grandmother that came down, the mother and the grandmother, and all they did was they threw racial, you guys are discriminating against my child.
Well, look, Tim, the other dirty little secret is this, is that even though Normandy school districts are called failing and have lost accreditation, and the Riverview school districts have lost accreditation, there are kids who are still succeeding in those schools.
Correct.
So the school is failing some kids, but not failing others. So my question is, who's failing who? Is the school and the teachers failing, or are the parents and society failing?
It's the parents.
It's the parent. Well, everyone says the parents, but I mean, I don't want to blame the parents of 3 jobs and everything else and so on and so forth. But society and all of societal ills, and no one's going to convince me that if you took those teachers from Riverview, if you took the entire Riverview Gardens, every single janitor and coach and teacher and principal and hall monitor and everybody, and you picked them up and put them in Francis Howell, and you switched. You did a school swap as opposed to a wife swap, right? Riverview Gardens would still be failing. Francis Howell would still be succeeding. So to say that the school district's failing and it's a bad school, I think is where this all starts going off the rails. Riverview Gardens isn't a bad school district. Maybe it is. I don't know. But there are kids who are succeeding in it. So how can it be failing if kids are succeeding? Right? Mike Matheny, should he be blamed for the doubleheader loss yesterday? He's the teacher. Or is it the people on the field? I got time for one more. Lee, line 2, you're on the Big 550 KTRS.
Hello?
Lee, you're on the air.
Hey, how you guys doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I've been listening, and, it's very sad. I'm sad for the children. I'm sad for us totally as human beings that we can't solve our problems with the education. I come from the public school system, and it failed me to a certain degree because of violence, no confidence at home,
right,
broken home situations. And these kids come from some real dire home back problems. And they bring that to school. They take it wherever they go. That's why they're so violent and so disturbed. And like I said, I think Judge Edwards is making a big difference in trying to bring that about. And I wish that more people get behind him and stop trying to judge and try to understand the reason for our suffering. So that comes from maybe decades of poverty, decades of abuse, decades of drug. Why, the white kids should, all kids, regardless of race, they should deserve better education. But at the same time, the white kids are getting a better education while the black kids are steady suffering, steady going down. It's not the fault of white kids. It's the fault of the system. It's the fault of government, and people are not taking a chance to stand up. They're worried about an income. They're worried about who's doing what. They have these same social problems with the adults. They're putting it into the children. Now times are worse, they said, in the Great Depression, or maybe twice or triple the time. And we need to try to find some common understanding between each other and stop fussing, because the kids are more intelligent than we were. They hear this, they see this, but everybody's trying to idolize what's on TV. We couldn't look at TV unless we could read the credits. That's how my mother had us, and it was violent, but at the same time, that's the only way she could teach us, because she didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. Or he didn't know any better. It is worse now.
What do you do now, Lee? Lee, what do you do now?
What I do now? Yeah. Okay, I'm a small businessman right now. I'm dealing with a disability now. So it's basically I've been working all my life. I've ran a landscaping business for over 20 years. I worked for the post office for over 12 years. I worked for the city for over 6 years. And I'm thinking about working in the trucking business for a few more years before I can retire. I'm over 55. And that doesn't mean anything because I don't look my age. I don't know why we put stipulations on how we should look or how we should feel, because because of numbers, because society is statistics.
Yeah.
It's how you take care of yourself.
Lee,
what you believe in. How you feel.
Lee, I know you and I've seen you, and you look marvelous. Thanks, Lee. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you for your insight, Lee. I appreciate it. 9:51, Big 550, KTRS.